morning. We are starting 9.6 permutations. Now, today I'm going to tell you at the beginning. I am going to offer a Zoom session today at 1 o'clock. So, because today is calculator heavy and I'm going to be explaining a way to use your calculator, and because for some people this might be kind of a weird section, I'm going to offer that 1 o'clock Zoom session. If you would like to join, just comment on the video and I'll be there at 1. But if you have a calculator, preferably not your phone, actually it can't, if I'm going to show you how to use this, it can't be your phone. So get your TI 30X if that's what you have. If you have the Casio, I'm pretty sure Lucas Tabor, you do. I'm going to be explaining how to find a particular button on that calculator. So go ahead and get that out, pause the video. Alrighty. Permutations. Before we were using the fundamental counting principle, and that just gives us a number that represents the total options that you could have given this situation. That number does not, or order does not matter with that number, right? But permutations, order matters. So I've highlighted use permutations when making a list where order matters. There's a super big difference between the fundamental counting principle and getting that number and the number that you'll get when you're working with permutations. So permutations, think like a horse race. If you're talking about 3 horses, the order matters for them to win, right? If the horse wins first place, that same horse can't win second place. So there are 3 horses that could win first place. But really there are only 2 horses then that could win second place, because the first place horse would have already won. So then the 2 other horses can win second place. And then for the third place, there's really only 1 horse that can win, because the horse that won first place can't win and the second place can't win third place as well. So order matters. This is a reminder. You do not have to write this down in green, but this is just talking about the fundamental counting principle. What we're doing today is very similar. However, super duper important to recognize that order matters here. Alrighty, so before we get going, I'm going to talk about your calculator. So if you are using the ones that we have at school, the one that you usually get passed out if you don't have your own, then we're going to use this button called NPR. That P stands for permutation. So we'll get into, how to type it in and everything later, but just to find the button, look for the button that says PRB, probability. If you're using the one that's like school, you'll find the second key in the top left-hand corner. Go over 1, you'll see DRG. Down 1, you'll see PRB. If you click that PRB, you'll see 3 things. You'll see NPR, that's permutations, what we're working with today. In CR, not what we're working with today. In CR is combinations, and that's when order does not matter. But today, permutations, order matters. And then you see a button that looks like an exclamation point. We will be using that today. That's called a factorial. So, now you know where to find all of those. It's your PRB button. If you have the Casio, again, I think Lucas Tabor, you do, you will find the PRB. Actually, yours just already has the NPR. So you'll turn it on, press Shift, and then look at the multiplication key. Above the multiplication key, you'll see NPR for permutations. Once you've clicked Shift, you can click the multiplication button, and it just comes up with a P, and that's totally fine. It means permutation. Alrighty, if you have another calculator, you probably want to join the Zoom session so I can explain where it is, but I'd have to see it. Okay, so the horse race example. We can still use the fundamental counting principle to find the number of ways the horses can be ordered. But, here's the big but, we have to pay attention to the number of horses possible and the outcome that each place is possible, right? So it's very similar to the fundamental counting principle, but we've got to pay attention to the order. So since we've got three places, first place, second place, and third place, and it says out of three horses. Okay, so you're going to make lines. I highly recommend that you make lines because those lines are talking about the number of options you have, right? We're choosing first, second, and third place, but out of three horses. So for the first place winner, we've got three options. All three horses could possibly win first place. And we're going to multiply that by the chance that the horses can win second place, just like we did with the fundamental counting principle. However, for second place, all three horses can't win. There are only two horses possible to win second place because somebody's already won first place. And if you win first place, you can't also win second place. For a third place, we don't have three options. We don't even have two options. We have one option because a horse has already won first place, another horse has already won second place, so we only have the last horse, right, who could possibly win third place. Now, just like the fundamental counting principle, we multiply 3 times 2, 6, times 1 is 6. So we've got 6 outcomes, considering that order matters. Alrighty. Now, if we use the calculator, again, I'm going to talk about the calculator that's like the one from school. We've got 3 total horses, and we're choosing 3 places, right? First, second, and third place. This second number is the number that's going to tell you how many lines to write. And that may seem silly right now, but I promise it'll come in handy. That second number tells you how many lines to write. This first number tells you what number to start with. 3, then go down 2, then go down 1. Because all that the order matters, and you don't have 3 horses that can win each of those if you only have 3 horses total. But you don't have to always make those lines if you're going to use your calculator. If you use your calculator, again, this is the school one, I'm going to type in 3, then I'm going to type in PRB in PR, so I'm going to press enter. So now on your screen it should say 3 in PR, and then I'm going to put 3 again because it's 3 in my head. I say 3, choose 3. And I'm going to press equals, and you should get 6. So whether you use your calculator, whether you use the lines, I will do both for your homework and for today's lesson. You should get the same answer. Now, if you are using the Casio, I'm going to type in 3. I'm going to do shift, do that multiplication buttons to get the NPR. So I see 3P3. I'm going to click enter, and I will get 6. So always type in the first number, then click the permutation button, then type in the second number and press enter. Alrighty. So again, order matters. So we've got 5 places to visit. So Hawaii, Japan, Florida, Italy, and I missed New York. But you can only go to 3 of those. Now, if you go to 3 of them, that means you can't stay in New York for all 3 times, right? You've got to go to 3 different places. Now, it's 5 places to go. You're choosing 3. So in my head, I say 5, choose 3. Or if we were writing it with the NPR, it'd be 5, NPR, 3. Remember that second number. That's the number that you're going to use to make your lines. So not the 5. They're not going to be, my pen is funky today, not 5 lines. So there are only 3 lines. Just like the fundamental counting principle, we're going to multiply. Now we've got 5 places to visit. So for the first place, we've got 5 options. For the second place, again, we're not staying there, so we only have 4 options, right? If we chose to go to New York for the first one, well then for our second one, our only options are Hawaii, Japan, Florida, or Italy. Now for our third option, we only have 3, right? So if we go to New York, then we go to Hawaii, we only have Japan, Florida, or Italy to choose from. So I'm going to put 3 here. Now, 5 times 4, we get 20. 20 times 3, we get 60. There are 60 options, considering that order matters. Now, if we use our button, 5 NPR3, if you type in 5, and then probability NPR3, you press equal, and you will get 60. So you've got 5 places to go, 5 total, but you're only selecting 3. Alrighty, so here, this is 2 separate examples. So let's look at the first one. You will see something that looks like this, and I want to show you that these are very different. Before 9.6, look to the right. So let's see, over here. This meant probability, right? Probability of 6, then 1. That's probability because we see the word then. Then tells us to multiply. If it said 6 or 1, right, it would be add. But when we see that word between the numbers, that means it's probability. It looks very similar to permutation over here. However, if it says P and a number, comma number, there's no word between those numbers. That means permutation. So P 12, comma 2, that means 12, choose 2. So 12 NPR2. This is telling you the order to put the numbers. So the first number is going to go before your NPR button. The second number is going to go after. So your total is 12 and you're selecting 2. Or, 12, choose 2 is what I usually say. Now remember that 2 is the number of lines that you write. That 12 is the number that you start with. So we've got 2 lines. I'm going to start with 12 here. Order matters. So it goes 12, then 11. So 12 times 11 is 132. But if you used your calculator, you would see P 12, 2. So I'm going to do 12. I'll do the probability NPR 2, and you will get 132 as well. The thing that I want you to focus on here is the distinction between permutation and probability. Probability, you'll see the word in between the numbers. Permutation, you will not. Also, follow the directions. If it says find the probability, then you're probably working with probability. If it says complete the following permutations, you're doing permutations. Alrighty. An ice cream shop has 31 flavors. Carlos wants to buy a 3-scoop cone with different flavors. So that's telling us that order matters, right? He's not going to choose all of the same flavors, 3 scoops of the same flavors. He wants 3 scoops of different flavors. How many cones could he buy if the order of flavors is important? So he's got 31 options, and he's choosing 3. And he said order matters. So if we were typing this into our calculator, it would be 31 NPR 3. He's got 31 options, choosing 3. But if we were using our lines, I'm going to make 3 lines. I've got 31 options for the first scoop. Now he doesn't want to repeat. So really for the second scoop, I only have 30 options. So this is first scoop, second scoop, third scoop. All right, so 31 for the first, 30 for the second, and then he's got 29 for the third scoop, right? 29 options because he's already used 2 of them. All right, so if I'm going to use 31 times 30 times 29, ooh, it's a large number. He's got 26,970 options. Alrighty, but if we use the 31 NPR3, I'm going to do 31. I'll use the Casio. So I'm going to do Shift, do the multiplication button. So it says 31P3, and I still get 26,970. If those 2 numbers are not matching, then you are typing it into your calculator wrong. So that 1 o'clock Zoom session, be there. Alrighty, so here, for your homework, you'll see this too. There's no word problem. This is just telling us to either use our lines or use our calculator. So permutation, 8, NPR, choose 3. Now, I'm going to do this both ways. That's if I'm going to use my calculator, but and you need to write that. So for your work tonight, let's see. For your work tonight, I wrote both options for some of them, and for some of them I did not. But you can use both options as long as you write this, or write your lines. So 8 NPR3, or choose the lines. The second number is the number of lines, so 3. I know I'm multiplying. And then I'm starting with the 8. Order matters, I can't use the same one, so at 8, 7, 6. And 8 times 7 times 6 gives us 336. If you do your 8 NPR3, you should get the exact same answer. Alrighty, let's do the got it's on page 766. Go ahead and pause the video, complete the got it's, and come back to the video and check your work. We have a few more notes after the got it, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Goodness, my thing. A. In how many ways can the starting 6 players of a volleyball team stand in a row for pictures? Alrighty. So we've got 6 players. And you know what? We actually have 6 options because they're all going to stand in the photo. It's not like 6 players and 3 of them are standing in the photo. So we've got 6 options because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because all 6 players are standing there. So I've got 6 options for the first place standing person. I've got 5 options for the second, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I'm going to use my NPR button, I would do 6, and I'm choosing, in this case, I'm actually choosing 6. Because it's not first, second, or third place. It's actually, there's 6 options. So, let's see. 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. I get 720. If I were to use the 6 NPR6, I would also get 720. Here's where I want to show you the factorial button. That factorial button is the exclamation point. You don't necessarily need to use this for anything, but you can because it means the exact same thing. When you have the same numbers on either side of the NPR button, that means it's going to be 6 and then 6 choices, right? 6 total and 6 choices, which always means it's going to be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, all the way to 1. When you type in the factorial, if it says, let's see, if it gave you 6 factorial, that really means 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So it truly means the exact same thing. So if you have the school calculator, you would do 6 probability, scoot your cursor over to have the line underneath the factorial button, press enter, so then you'll see 6 exclamation point and you'll get 720. So that's what the factorial button is. Alright, got it, B. Let's see. Gotta be in a race with 7 runners, in how many ways can the runners end up first, second, and third place? Okay, so we've got 7 total. We've got 3 choices, first, second, or third. So if you're using your calculator, you would type in 7 NPR3. Now, first, second, and third, that's our second number, which tells us how many lines to write. The first number tells us the number to start with. We've got 7, we've got 6, then we've got 5. Now, in this case, the factorial button would not work. If we typed in 7 factorial, that would mean 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And that's not what we're doing here, right? So be sure that you understand the time and place when to use the factorial. So 7 times 6 times 5, we get 210. And if you use the NPR button, you'll get the same thing. Alrighty. This is just the factorial, so we actually already went over it. 5 NPR 5 is the same thing as 5 factorial. You don't need to use the factorial button, but if you choose to, that is perfectly fine. Go ahead and do so. But 5, choose 5 is 120. And then we actually already did 6, choose 6, which was 720. Alrighty, so if you have any questions, please let me know. You do need to comment if you want to come to the 1 o'clock Zoom meeting, because I'm not going to hold it if nobody wants to join. So if you want to join, go ahead and let me know. Comment on the video, and I will see you at 1. Otherwise, let me know if you have any questions on your homework. Have an awesome day.